From the moment he entered the movies, Charles Chaplin knew that he needed a total creative autonomy in order to make the kind of comedy of which he alone was capable. This autonomy he finally achieved in 1918 when he built his own studio. Hollywood was then still rural, and the studio rose up among the orange groves in the grounds of an old mansion. Disguised on the outside as an old English village street, the interior of the studio was, for those times, state-of-the-art. Chaplin celebrated his move by making an amusing little documentary, How to Make Movies, which showed the facilities and personnel of the studio and his own daily routine. In fact, the film was never assembled or released, and this precious view of early Hollywood was not seen until 1959, when Chaplin included some shots in his compilation, The Chaplin Review. The films that Chaplin made in his own studio were a marked advance on any comedies made in Hollywood before. His films were generally longer and much more sophisticated in staging and construction. The first was A Dog's Life. Chaplin found an excellent co-star in the person of a charming mongrel dog whose battle for survival with the other dogs of the quarter is satirically compared with Charlie the Tramp's own struggle for a place in society. Much of the action is centred on a low saloon where the heroine, played by Edna Purviance, works as a much-abused singer and hostess. Charlie's adventures with his canine friend and his confrontations with a pair of thieves provide some fine comedy business, but at the same time there is a background of realism in the depiction of the rough saloon and its denizens. In A Dog's Life, Chaplin is joined for the first time by his brother Sidney, who had shared his early struggles and helped him make his way on the variety theatres. An excellent comedian in his own right, Sidney plays the proprietor of the coffee stall which is victim to the pilfering of Charlie and his dog. An odd feature of A Dog's Life is that Chaplin has abandoned his usual cane, presumably because he needed his hand free to hold the dog's leash. The First World War was already raging when Chaplin opened his studio, and A Dog's Life was finished in a hurry so that Chaplin could do his war effort by embarking on a tour to sell Liberty bonds, persuading the public to buy investments that supported the war effort. His friends were nervous of his next project, a comedy about the war which was to become Shoulder Arms. Even Chaplin himself had momentary doubts about making comedy out of such a catastrophic event in human history. But with this film he proved definitively that there is only the thinnest division between comedy and tragedy. With great brilliance, Chaplin depicts the horrors of life at the front: mud, blood, hunger, vermin, longing for home, the waterlogged trenches, and the ever-imminent danger of a lethal bullet or grenade. All is seen through the distorting mirror of comedy. Few directors exerted such discipline upon themselves. His original plan was to show the little hero's home life before the war. In the end, though, he simplified the structure, discarding reels of wonderful comic material he had shot. Despite all the initial fears, Shoulder Arms was and remains one of his greatest successes. No one appreciated his comedy of the privations of life at the front more than the very men who had themselves endured it. The third film in this collection is The Pilgrim. Made in 1922, this was Chaplin's last film of less than normal feature length, and the last also in which his leading lady was the charming Edna Purviance. The film is a gentle satire on small-town life and religion. Chaplin plays an escaped convict who steals the clothes of a bathing clergyman and by chance lands in the township of Dead Man's Gulch, where they are just awaiting the arrival of their new pastor. The ex-convict fulfills his new role in a somewhat unconventional way, and as a result seems to experience a sort of reformation, naturally in part effected by love of the beautiful Edna. When the film first came out, it suffered a good deal from censorship in some more puritanical states and cities of the United States. Today we have no such problems with this charming comedy and its sharp but good-hearted fun at the expense of the small hypocrisies of life. These, then, are the three films which, slightly re-edited, Chaplin chose to put together as The Chaplin Review, and for which he composed new musical scores and, for The Pilgrim, even a theme song, Bound for Texas.